What's up, everyone? Okay, take two. What's up, everyone, and welcome to season 6, episode 16 of Dualistic Unity. I am the space all around you. I am the sun in the sky and the stars and the moon, and also the shit running through the sewers. It's all in there. I'm all of it, and my idea about what I am really doesn't matter. It's just one lens out of an infinite amount of lenses that could exist. And although I appreciate my specific shade, I see it for what it is. And it's cool to know that at once I am Jackie and God at the same time. I am a dualistic being, and it's fun to explore.
Oh my goodness, everyone. I am excited for you guys to check out the chat that Jackie and I just got into. We talked about labels and pride in labels and the retreats and holding on to certain things, the many ways that we make ourselves feel better after making ourselves feel like shit. So excited for you guys to check it out and looking forward to going on this roller coaster together. Woo! Hello. I am tired, but it is all right.
We're here.
Yep, definitely keeping it together. A little coffee helps. Try not to. This is not an advertisement. I was just shout out to the coffee, not the brand. So cover it. How you doing, Jackie? I miss you. It's been a while. I'm a little all over the place because I'm just coming back from the Virginia Beach retreat, and we are just getting back into the swing of things. And it's a little bumpy, but it is, we're riding those bumps and we're making the most of it. But it feels really good to be back and to be chatting with you, Jackie. So I'm very excited for our chat today.
Yes, I am excited for this chat for sure because I have a lot on my mind. It's always interesting when a retreat is happening. I feel like I tap into that energy somehow or something. Like I always have a lot of realizations or like intense emotions or like intense experiences happen while retreats are happening. So it's cool that even though I'm not there, I feel like I always have something to chat about afterwards. Um, if you're wondering why I look like a coconut head right now, I got a haircut that was less than ideal. So that was fun. Just, a very mundane example of the fact that, I could choose to rile myself up about something dumb, or I could just accept reality for what it is and not let it ruin my day or get me in a sour mood at all because it's like, well, it's just hair. Like nothing is really that serious to like lose your mind over. And it's the same thing when I realize what we'll get into more into this episode, but I've been realizing that I've kind of been talking it more than I've been walking it recently, and I've realized that I've kind of been slacking on my responsibility over my existence, like I maybe haven't been taking as good as care of myself as I want to be. And, just continuing with patterns that even in the moment, I'm like, I'm only doing this because it's habitual. And yet I still will do it. And so I've kind of realized certain things that I've been doing in the last like, couple weeks or months. And that can be a tough thing to like a tough pill to swallow for sure. Realizing that, you have sort of been escaping your life or avoiding responsibility. Um, but getting down on myself is what keeps me in that spot, right? And so being able to see that in myself and not let it tear me down, not let it like make me feel like a piece of shit, just taking it in, be like, okay, well, I have new considerations now and I can make new choices. And even if I don't decide to make that new choice right now, like it's not like that's objectively wrong. It's just I'm going to suffer the consequences of it. So do I want to keep doing that? Or do I want to make a different choice? And recently I've been feeling like I want to make some new choices. And that's where I'm at today. How are you, Amanda? How was the retreat? I can't wait to hear.
Oh my goodness. I am loving everything that you just said, and you are beautiful. I just want to take a moment to appreciate. And, the bangs may be shorter than you wanted, but they bring my eye to your face and your gorgeous cheekbones and your beautiful eyes. And so it does bring it does shape your face nicely, I think. So even though it's a little bit shorter than you expected, I do think that the bangs do still shape your face in a very flattering way. And so I still think you look beautiful. And this gives you an opportunity, like you said, to make a new choice. And if you can't have fun in exactly the way that you thought, you could still have fun somewhere else. Like this is where you can have fun with your shoe game, with fun socks. This you could have more fun in another area like your eyeshadow, your eyebrows. You do like these elaborate designs. You have like little sunsets rising or setting in those eyes. Like there are so many fun things there's so many fun other areas you can play with. Because bangs, you can't cut them anymore. That's it. That's all you can really do with bangs and hair is you can cut it or not cut it. And when you cut it, you're like, all right, well, you can't play here anymore. This playground is closed. So I'm like, what else can we play? This one's under construction. Let's go to the eyeshadow playgrounds or the shoe game playground, and just knowing that you can always have fun somewhere, even if it's not in the place you expected. But it does it kind of forces you to play somewhere else, and so that is a silver lining, I kind of think. This retreat was incredible. They're all incredible. So who am I kidding? They're all amazing. And this one felt really light, and it felt light because a lot of us are responsible, and you just said, that you're like, I haven't been, as responsible as I could be. And all I heard was like, I'm dropping the ball, and I just told myself that, which is why I'm smiling so hard, because I just had kidney stones, right? I had a very painful reminder that we're not paying attention. We are not paying, what we're not paying attention to? How much fucking sugar and salt we're eating. And if you don't pay attention, it builds up, and so like, of course, it blew up. But thankfully the kidney stones hit before the retreat, so we got to pass them. It's so painful, right? And so I was like, oh my goodness. And so, after the kidney stones had passed, we thought twice about those damn donuts. We thought twice about the cookies and the salty pretzels and eating extra and adding extra salt and adding extra sugar and drowning our waffles in syrup. We have a decent, healthy amount, but we think twice. We think more about that because now, I dropped the ball. And I was so frustrated. So I'm there like writhing in pain and throwing up in a bucket and and I didn't go to the emergency room. We just waited for the stones to pass and drinking water and throwing up and it was, a really humbling experience. And the emergency rooms are only going to give me a fat bill, a headache. I have to wait in a waiting room. I have to be in this strange place with people that I don't know. I'm in pain. This is the last time, or this is the last environment that I want to be in when I am in like 7 out of 10 pain, and so I was like, and I don't want the pain pills that they're going to give me because it's not that bad. Like, it's not like it's killer, the stones will pass. And the nausea, I don't like taking nausea medication anyways. So it's like, well, throwing up is not that worst thing in the world. And neither is dealing with intense abdomen pain. We're tough. And I think we forget that a lot of times, how fucking tough we are and how much you can take. Yes, this is a lot. And that was one of the insights at the retreat. Very often we think it is, too much. But what if you just looked at it as so much? Like, there's so much, right? There's so fucking much to feel. There's so much to pay attention to. Of course, we're gonna not pay attention to every single thing. Like that's like, for me, that like this idea of perfection, Like I'm supposed to be paying attention to everything. I'm supposed to be responsible in every category, and there's no fucking way. So I'm gonna pay attention. I'm not gonna pay attention, and then I'm gonna either have extremely painful reminders or gentler reminders that we're not paying attention, and then we can just shift and pay attention to this or find ways to pay attention more often, but not have this expectation that you have to be responsible and never drop a ball. And I feel like it ties well with the insight that I think Ray had at the retreat, which was just that, you know, it is so much, but it's not too much. You can handle it, you know?
I love that. Yeah. Because it's only too much when we decide it's too much. So we're like placing like a border around what we think we can handle. But like we're the one that's making that limit, right? We're making that threshold. And then what you find is that life continues to push you outside of that and you're like, "Oh my god, that was a lot." But you get through shit. And oh my gosh, I'm really like I know I know things aren't objectively good or bad, but holy shit. Kidney stones, I'm so sorry, Amanda. That sounds fucking brutal. But you know what's crazy is that while you were at the retreat, I had a UTI. So like our urinary systems are going through some shit right now. What the hell? Yeah, maybe let's drink some water. Um, but yeah, there's just there's I don't know, it's like there's an infinite amount of things that we can experience, and as long as we continue to exist through them, like that just shows how strong we really are. And I like that you use that as an example of like a painful reminder of just like, oh yeah, you're not paying attention. Because I don't know, we do put so much pressure on ourselves to like spin plates and like never drop a ball and pay attention to like so many fucking things. Like especially in our modern world today, like there's so many things that we just have to be aware of and maintain. And like I don't know, dumb shit like renewing your car registration or like paying your taxes or I don't know, like things like that. Just so many things that we have to remember, and like tasks for work, and then like maintaining all your social relationships and remembering everyone's birthday and like remembering to I don't know, there's a billion things. Take out your trash on time. Um plus all the things on your calendar, like it just can feel like so much.
You're not even including
And
remembering all my insecurities and fears on that list, you know?
exactly. Like all the things that we think people are going to judge us for and we have to maintain like our appearance, everything, the way we speak, the way we stand in a room, even things like that. Like we just create all of these expectations, but in reality, like reality is not imposing those on us. We are creating those based on like our ideas about right, wrong, good, bad, like success, failure, you know, like the things we want to be. Um that is what creates all the pressure and suffering. And in reality, life is just kind of self-refining. Like, yeah, you'll be doing your best and then something will happen and then you'll learn to pay attention and then it won't happen as much anymore, right? And you kind of get better at handling everything as you go. But not by like consciously thinking about and trying to control and like already see things before you see them, because we can't. There is so much and it's never going to be too much, but like we need to give ourselves a little bit of fucking grace. Like I think even recently I've had so much pressure on myself to be perfect and like have all my shit together. And I like was kind of feeling a little bit down the other day because I realized like I'm not taking really that good care of myself. I've kind of fallen off of my yoga practice. Like I'm not eating as well as I could be. I might not be spending my money as wisely as I could be. I'm probably going out too much, right? But like these are all like, where did those standards come from? Where did that bar come from? And why is it so goddamn high? Like why do I have to do everything right in order to feel okay about myself? And I realized that it's just like, it's kind of an avoidance tactic. It's kind of like I set the bar so high so that I'm like, oh shit, like, well, I can't reach that. So why would I even try? Like, and it's subconscious. Like, it's not like I'm thinking these things, but I sort of realized that maybe that's the process that's going on in my mind, is that like I'm avoiding things because my expectations of myself are way too high. And that's not what I want. Like, I want to be able to express myself freely. So why don't I do it? Or why, like, if I want to make a change, why don't I actually do it? And I'll never really know. Like, what do you think, Amanda? Why do you think, like, when we want to change, we don't?
Hmm. Sometimes I think I can't do it. Like I can't execute the change, or like it won't stick. So there's like a lack of uh trust in the follow through, like um sometimes I'll think, like, oh, why even bother trying to get back into a fitness routine because I'm just going to give up anyways. Right. And so that's definitely a personal one. So when you talked about like out of the yoga practice, I was like, I cannot tell you how many times I have started and stopped like getting into some type of fitness, whether it was Pilates, yoga, powerlifting, weightlifting, cardio, I started and stopped probably, way more times than I would want to do, but it's just infinite, just countless times. And so when I think about it now, I'm like, yeah, maybe we will stop again, and then we can start again. Right? Like, so what? So what that I stop a million and fucking one time? I can start a million and two times back up. I like, it doesn't matter that I stop it. It matters more that I listen to my body. And sometimes, like, so when I was dealing with the kidney stones, I was like, when I started to like feel a little better, like after a few days of like letting the stones pass, I was thinking like, oh, I should be, like I want to like work out. Like I want to get into like embracing like this fitness mindset. And a part of me was like, wait, just wait. Like I know that the motivation is back. You have a really strong motivation because you are in intense pain. You don't want to be in pain again. So you want to very much move towards being stronger and fitter and someone who doesn't get kidney stones. And it's like, I'm talking to myself and it's like, I know you want to be that person who doesn't get kidney stones again, but you're still processing them now. And like, you're not even letting yourself fully heal. Like, just because you don't feel pain doesn't mean that you're not passing smaller stones. Like, let's let the body reset. Let's take some time. Let's drink a fuck ton of water. Let's rest. Let's stretch. Stretching is allowed, but not like getting into like a crazy workout where we're, trying to do some high intensity training so that we can just feel better. Right. And that's what I told myself. I was like, really, the real reason why I want to work out right now, like day 3, is because I want to feel better about my relationship with my fitness, with my body. And I don't. I feel guilty. I feel shame. I feel disappointment. I feel frustration. I feel embarrassment. I feel all of those things because, at 31, I should know better. At this age, I should know how to be drinking enough water and how to be incorporating my fitness. And I should know all of these things. Why are we still going through this? Because I've had a kidney stones a couple times. And so it's like, did we not get it? Did we not, are we an idiot? Are we blind? Or, like, what is it? So I went through all of those things, and I admitted to myself, like, I only really want to do it right now because I want to feel better that I haven't been doing it. Instead of just accepting that my attention was focused somewhere else. I valued my work. I valued working on DU projects. I valued hanging out with my friends and going out. I valued all those things more than I valued my relationship with my physical body. And that's okay. We had a blast. I had a blast. We loved not paying attention to the body. Okay. Like, let's not get it twisted. And so I enjoyed it for what it was. And it came at a price. It came, it's so funny. I was talking about freedom of speech the other day, and, how you should be able, to say anything. And you can say anything. And at that time that I had this conversation, like a couple days ago, I said, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a consequence to what you say. And then I kept thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, but consequence has like a negative connotation, like punishment. Like you can say anything, but not without punishment for certain things. And then I thought about that, and I was like, fuck, what am I trying to control? Like how I feel when someone says a certain thing that I don't like. So I was like, okay, well then, okay, so let's take consequence off the table. And how about there's always a ripple, right? No matter what you do, no matter what you say, there will always be a ripple. Sometimes you like the ripple, sometimes you don't. The ones that you don't, we tend to say are a consequence or a punishment. But ultimately, no matter what you do, no matter what you decide, no matter where your attention is, there is a ripple. And I think not trying to have a certain type of ripple will help. And just kind of accepting that that's always the case doesn't make it such a surprise when it's a ripple you don't like. You're like, ooh, that sucks. UTI sucks. I've had them and they are horrible and they suck. More water, right? Like more water. Kidney stones, they suck. More water. Well, like something so like, I feel so silly. I'm like, oh, I'm torturing myself because I'm like not giving myself water. Like, like such a simple, small thing. And it's just, like that has a ripple. And so we can change it. We don't necessarily love this ripple, then we can change the way that we're riding the waves, and we can change the way which waves we catch because we're paying attention. So we're out in the ocean. You really kind of don't want to ride fucking tsunamis, right? Maybe the tsunamis, we don't go into the water. Where maybe we see those and we're like, you know what? I'm gonna wait for the next round. you know you know but if we're not paying attention, oh my god, I'm riding the tsunami. It is not working. It's not like that. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting swept away and carried. There is no more control. I mean, there's no more influence that I'm just like kind of swept away in the current of that giant tsunami. Like, you don't ride tsunamis. They crush, they destroy, but when you're not paying attention, it's very easy to end up on a wave you never expected. So just by paying attention, you just, you can watch the ripples, and then you can better adapt. But when I think about change, I think that, it's thinking that you have to be one thing, and that's not the case. So it just makes more sense that you don't think I have to change to become something. It's just I can pay attention, because no matter what I do, no matter what I look like, no matter what kind of person I am, everything that I do, whether I say it's good or bad, has a ripple. And those ripples are sometimes good or bad depending on how I see them. So it's like, just pay attention. Pay attention to right now, and you can better adapt to whatever the moments, whatever reality is. And reality doesn't have one type of person that does well in it. So I think not trying to change myself to become a certain type of person is going to help. And I think all the times that we try and we start and stop, we realized that we were trying to be a concept. We were trying to live like we were a concept, and it didn't fucking work. And no matter how many times we try, no matter which concept you pick, it's not going to work. So you're not changing to become a person. You're just changing because everything's always changing. So I say that those are my thoughts on why sometimes it feels like you're not changing, but I think it's that you're not becoming the concept that you're trying to be.
Yeah, it's like we try and like force ourselves into this concept, and yeah, if it's not in line with where we're at mentally, like with what our life looks like, and like what's realistic for us within our environment and where we're at the time, like that shit's just gonna fall off. And like it's okay. I mean, it's not to say that we shouldn't ever try and change things about our lives. Like it requires to some extent our participation, but we should never confuse that for control. Because you're right, Amanda, like when it's a reminder when you go through something that's really painful, or you're in like a really chaotic situation that like you have no control over and you just have to deal with it. Like that reminds you you're never in control, but you never are anyway, even when you think you are, right? Like even when you're being really consistent and like going to the gym and eating super well and meditating every day and sleeping 8 hours and reducing your screen time and seeing your friends and keeping your house clean and all of that shit. And you're living perfectly, could still have a heart attack. Or you could be on a run and give yourself a heart attack, right? Like you think you're doing something that's healthy for you. And then all of that could be swept out from under you at any moment. And like we just have to have a baseline acceptance of that. And like I think a lot of our suffering comes from the expectation that things are going to go the way we expect them to, or that they should go the way that we want them to go. Right? Like it's there's a difference between the world that we think exists and the world that actually exists, and like what's going on out here. Like that's something I've been thinking about a lot recently too, is just like those are two completely separate worlds. Like what's happening versus what I think is happening. Like yeah, I guess they are interconnected in some sense, as in like it's part of reality, right? And I can't say those thoughts don't exist, or I can't say with certainty that they don't have influence over anything. But like I don't know, in my experience a lot of my suffering comes from the difference between what's on in my mind and what's happening in reality. And so yeah, paying attention, like you said, is just living more in the real world. And when you do that, like the next best choice becomes a little bit more clear, right? So like if you're paying attention to how your body is actually feeling versus like the concept of, oh, I want to get back into my fitness routine, then you're going to make a better choice, right? You're going to listen to your body and say, oh, yeah, I'm not really ready for that. Versus like if you're trying to just live up to this conceptual idea, you're going to push yourself maybe further than you're ready for, and it's not going to have the benefits that you think it will. And like you might actually end up hurting yourself worse, or like making things worse. So yeah, I love that. It's just constantly reminding yourself of reality, and like it's okay that we get caught up. Everybody does, right? Like it's part of this experience. Like we wouldn't appreciate, you know, the ability to see reality for what it is if we didn't get caught up and lost and confused. Um, so it's all just informing each other, and we can be okay with all parts of that process, right? It's like we're just riding the waves, and sometimes you're gonna get smacked and cracked over the rocks. You're gonna get rolled on the sand. You're gonna you're gonna get swallow a mouthful of water, right? And that sucks, right? But eventually you're gonna float back to the surface, and like you just kind of have to keep going. And like the analogy of surfing, or like riding the waves, I think is a good one, because you're not in control but you have influence. The ocean is way more powerful and unpredictable, and we have no idea how that's working, but we can kind of feel it, and we can feel when it's swelling, and we can know when we have to paddle, and we know when we have to duck under a wave versus when we can ride it. So like yeah, I just think that's a great analogy for just existence in general. Similar to like the breath, right? Like we can't control our breath fully. Like we have to breathe, and like we can try and hold our breath for as long as we can, but eventually like you can't just hold your breath until you die. That's not, your body will just force you to breathe. But you can influence the way that you breathe, and in doing that change your experience. And that's the same thing that we do in life. Like we can't influence who we are, where we are, what our life looks like right now. We can't change that, right? But we can have an influence. And I think I have kind of tended to kind of use the lack of control maybe as an excuse of like, okay, well, I don't really know how this is playing out. Like, I might think I want to make this change, but like, where is that coming from? Like maybe I should just live in reality. But, sometimes when you have an inclination to change, like participating or changing something is a beneficial thing to do, right? And like, I don't think that's something to be completely written off. Like, our influence is still very much important. And even though it's not ever going to be control, like, it shouldn't be taken for granted at the same time. And like, we need to take responsibility over our lives and like do what we can, right? Like, and that never should be like a specific bar that we set, but I think it's more of a feeling when you're living out of this place of responsibility where you feel like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not doing things perfectly, but I'm learning and I'm embracing change rather than, remaining complacent and comfortable. Um, yeah. So it's very nuanced though, like this balance between letting go and like taking responsibility. And I think that's going to be something that continues to just refine itself as I get older, and I don't really need to worry about how that happens. But just realizing that my contribution is important, I think, is the most important part. Like just having that consideration in the back of my mind. But it's not like I'm setting a new standard for myself or anything. It's just like, okay, well, you know what a lack of participation feels like. So maybe there's a level somewhere in the middle that we could try and aim for. And sometimes we're going to overshoot on the control, and sometimes we're going to lean into stagnation a little bit. And that's okay. That's how things work. And like nature works in cycles, or where like we have periods of a lot of growth and participation and energy, and then we have seasons of reflection and rest and just, I don't know, being grateful and taking in everything that you already have, right? So like we can lean into those cycles a little bit, and that comes with just tuning into how you feel in each and every moment rather than trying to impose a structure or a concept onto your life.
It gets challenging, or it's hard not to make an identity out of the changes that you make. The something that came to mind when you're talking about like the lack of participation and the ripple that makes versus the ripple that you make when you are participating, not for yourself, not to be the savior, not to be the one who solves. You're just participating because you can, and you are enjoying it. You're making the most of what's available, reality, right? And so I love when you were talking about that, reality and our thoughts are connected. And I think that reality reflects our thoughts, but I don't think that thoughts always reflect reality. So, I am definitely, I was very concerned with my looks a lot more when I was younger, especially when you're growing up. And so it's, you're not tall enough, you're not thin enough, you're not, you're not as developed enough, like whatever slot you pick. It was like, so my reality reflected those thoughts, reflected those fears, those insecurities. I was always staring at women's bodies, not because I was attracted, like, in that a little bit, yes, attracted, but not like they were, like I was trying to like date them and start relationships, or I had a genuine appreciation for just the beautiful existence of women, right? It wasn't that. I was staring because I was looking at everything that they had that I didn't. I was looking through the lens of insecurity. That was the main reason why I was always looking at women when I was younger, was just, I was always focusing on what I thought they had that was better than mine, my version of it. And so my reality reflected those thoughts, but my thoughts didn't actually reflect the reality around me, which is that there are so many different shapes and sizes of bodies that, that they all have their beauty. They all have something to appreciate. I think of my aunt, and I think of her chicken legs, right? And I love that my legs. So I always like my legs. I always thought that my legs were had a lot of like muscle, and so I liked the muscle definition. But I think of my aunt who has like the skinniest little legs, like almost no muscle on them. And I think that her legs are the cutest, cutest little chicken legs, like little, little chicken bones, you know and so that's just one example of like something that technically I have differently, but I still like it. And it's like all the variations are beautiful, and reality is beautiful, and it is mysterious, and it is magical, and it has so much within it. But my thoughts don't always reflect reality. My thoughts usually reflect my fears, but my fears are not reality. They can have some basis sometimes, like you're protecting yourself for, you have a fear of bears when you're hiking, right? There's a little bit of truth to that fear, like it makes sense to have it when you're on the mountain. It doesn't make sense to have it when you're at the laundromat. So yeah, sometimes fears are appropriate for the situation that you're in, and sometimes they make no fucking sense. Like, so your fears and your thoughts do not always reflect reality. Sometimes they can, but many times they don't. And it's so important to remind yourself of that. When I think about the ways that I've tried to change myself, they were always to make myself feel better. I almost cried on the way to the retreat. As I was driving down to Virginia. I cried because it was just like, there are so many things that I do to change myself, because I think because that makes me feel better. So like my hair is not naturally this red. And on some level, I think that I look better with this hair color, so I changed my hair color slightly to make myself feel better. I'm not top heavy, I don't have a big chest. So we have worn padded bras so many times when we have like special occasions or certain dresses. And very rarely do I wear like an evening gown dress without a padded bra. And I do that to make it feel better. Am I changing my breast size? No, but I change it because it makes me feel better, because I think that that's the way it's supposed to be. I was thinking about getting braces like a year ago. And, it's because, and my teeth are fine. My teeth are totally fine and healthy. And yet I was thinking about straightening them to make myself feel better, because I tell myself that the way that they are is not good enough. And so I was just driving and just thinking of all the fucking ways that I tell myself that about this combination is not enough, and I need to change it. And I only want to change it to make myself feel better. But the reality around me doesn't tell me that I need to specifically change. It gives me a template, and I think that template is the one that's the way it's supposed to be. And so when I compare myself to it, I change myself to feel better, because I'm not that template. But there's so many variations, and there's so many ways. A tree, when it sheds its leaves and it doesn't have those bright yellow, orange, green colored leaves, and has no leaves, and it's barren, it doesn't think that it's less than, and it's changing, and it doesn't feel like it's superior when it has leaves or versus when it doesn't. And it doesn't feel more superior to a smaller tree, or to a tree that doesn't grow leaf, that doesn't, like a pine cone tree. They don't shed. They have their leaves all year round. They don't feel superior to other trees that shed, because that's all just a part of the process. And whether it looks like it's vibrant and glowing or it doesn't mean anything. So it's just, so I cried. I almost felt like crying, because I was like, oh my goodness, like I still like wearing makeup. I do that to make myself feel better. There are so many things that I still do to this day to make myself feel better. And I never had to make myself feel bad. And so it was very much feeling like this is too much. Like, damn, how many years, how many times have I done something and I didn't realize it? So I was like almost disappointed that I hadn't felt this realization sooner. But I was like, but that's just a part of this process, this learning journey. And so, yeah, we may not have been paying attention to these particular ways that we made ourselves feel bad and then better. That maybe that is the way, maybe that is true. We didn't do that before, but we can now. And now we appreciate that is a choice that we know we can make, and that we can enjoy making. So I ended up not crying, because I was like, like I'm still here. Like I still appreciate being here. I still appreciate that in this moment, we're not rushing to change anything about the way that we look, or the way that we act, or the way that our life looks. We're just enjoying that we can enjoy it regardless of my opinion of it. So it was very much feeling like this is so much, but it wasn't feeling like too much.
Yeah, Amanda, that's really relatable. Yeah. Like I think about that too all the time. It's like, well, what like that's I was so cruel to myself and I am still so cruel to myself and I don't fundamentally I mean, I do accept myself fundamentally, but still like I try and change things. And if I'm being honest, not everything is purely because I want to. Like those expectations and, other other people's opinions, whatever, it's still like very habitual to want to cater to that. And it's funny though, because what I've realized, like, is that what I thought other people were expecting of me or like perceiving me as, that was only ever my lens. And that's what it is. Like, I like how you said, like the way that our thoughts color sort of the way we view reality. It's like a lens that we put over just like the plain perception of what's actually happening. Like our thoughts are just like a layer over that cover that filters everything that we're seeing. And I was listening to the audiobook of The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I don't know if you've read that book, but he said something that I thought was really interesting. Like he described the reason for like us having an inner voice as just because otherwise reality is just stark and cold, right? And like completely uncertain. We have no idea what's going to happen. So like the reason that we have that inner voice is to make us feel more comfortable with our existence and to like, sort of have it feel like almost like there's somebody else there. Like there's like a dialogue that's going on and like we have a relationship to the things around us rather than just being a pen. It's my pen and I've had it for this long, right? And so everything becomes a little bit more familiar and less foreign. And so I appreciate that about my thoughts and my inner voice, but yeah, we have to pay attention to like whether what it's saying is helpful for us to continue to keep thinking and whether it's making us more comfortable or if it's causing us more suffering, right? Um like the inner voice telling us you look bad, go put on makeup, right? That might not be something that we want to keep investing in because over time it becomes habitual and it's like then when you go out without makeup rather than just being like okay this is how I am and that's fine because that's how I am, right? It's like no, there's something wrong about that. And yeah, there's just a difference between what the voice is telling you and what's real, but I do appreciate the fact that it's there because I don't know, growing up you needed that like inner voice or something to make you feel like a little bit more comfortable and like to have a relationship with reality rather than just like existing in this way that's sort of empty of feeling or color and just like plain existence. It wouldn't be as magical, right? If we didn't have this inner experience as well, but it's not always going to be pleasant, right? And so like being able to see it for what it is what allows you to use it as a tool and not have it just run your life and take you further and further away from reality. Like it's not evil to think certain thoughts about yourself, whether they're good or bad. It's not evil or objectively wrong, but it's just not true. And like it can inform the way that you move around, but it's not going to be like what you think is what should be happening um by any means, right? Like what you think is just what you think and it can alter the way you behave or what ends up turning out in reality, but it's not deterministic in any way. It's just kind of like commentary. That's, I think, a good way to put it. It's just commentary. It's like just trying to make some sense of something that doesn't make any sense, but the commentary is very fucking different than what's actually there.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because I have definitely had some wild thoughts, man. Thoughts that about murder, thoughts about bank robberies, racist thoughts, sexist thoughts. I have thought some really messed up thoughts, and thankfully we didn't hold on to them. We didn't hold on to them long enough to make an identity out of it. You know, I don't think that because I thought sexist thoughts and I had my whole man-hating phase that I am a man-hater for life. You know, like, yeah, we thought those thoughts, and we thought those thoughts a lot of times, you know, down with the man, you know, in every sense of the word. You know, when we thought about, you know, racist thoughts, you know, it was just to make me feel better. You know, I wanted to feel better about the gender that I was in. I wanted to feel better about the race that I was in. I wanted to feel better about the economic place I was in. I just always wanted to feel better. That's where those thoughts were coming from. So it's not that I am upset. You know, I am a little nervous sharing this like in such a public way, like I had these thoughts, and it's just, you know, like, but when I think about why or where those thoughts were coming from, it's insecurities. And I was just trying to feel better about the group that I thought that I was in, because I thought that that meant something about me. I thought that I was the concept of being a Spanish woman, you know? And so I thought that because I was a Spanish woman, everything else that wasn't a Spanish woman was was anti me. And so it was like, you know, well, I'm so glad, you know, men are all horrible, or any other race is horrible. You know, and that was, it went against, you know, it went against everything that I thought wasn't me. Every single thing, every group that wasn't in the group that I was in, I wanted to be against it because I wanted to dominate it, because I was scared of it, because there was a division, and the division created more fear, you know, because I thought, you know, if we don't do it, they're going to do it. You know, like it just, and so I thought those thoughts to feel better, you know, but thinking murderous thoughts doesn't make you a murderer. You know, thinking racist thoughts doesn't make you a racist. You know, thinking sexist thoughts don't make you a sexist. It's what you do. You know, it's what you do. And no matter what, there are more times that I treated other people like a whole person than treated them in a way that made me feel better. You know, there are more times, and there are times where I absolutely was, you know, completely divisive. And there are plenty of examples. But when I think to the bulk, you know, there are more times that I connected with people that I thought I had nothing in common with. You know, and I appreciate life. I appreciate reality more than I appreciate the feeling of feeling better. And so that's where we just happened to fall. And I'm so glad that I didn't make an identity, that I didn't hold on to the fact that I did think those thoughts, and that I did think those thoughts were right. But I was just being insecure. I was just being a little bitch, and I couldn't admit it. And so I wanted to blame everyone else, you know?
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that, Amanda. And I'm in the same boat. Like, I think that's true of everybody. Like, where you stake your identity, it's like that's just going to be your perspective. And like, you're right, as long as you're identifying, there's going to be judgment, there's going to be comparison, there's going to be competition, and like none of that actually exists or is real, but like a part of our psychology as humans, right? Like we compete with other groups, and like being able to see that for what it is what allows us to empathize. And so I love that you brought that up too. It's like the more that you interact with people that you have judgments for, you realize, oh, we're actually more similar than different. And I think everybody, you know, has these thoughts, and like we're so confused about our thoughts being us that we like feel shame about these internal like thoughts that we have. So we like double down like in our external environment and point the fingers at everyone else and say, you're racist, you're homophobic, whatever. Because like deep down, we know we've had thoughts like that, and then we are so ashamed of it that we like project it outwards and have to vilify somebody else. But in reality, like, we're all suffering from the same affliction of identity. And that's the thing that's like causing the division. It's not specific people who are racist. It's not specific people who are sexist or homophobic or anything. Like, our like no, it's just identity in general. Like, that's what's creating the separation. And yeah, but there is still a very big difference between what you think and reality. Like, our thoughts don't define us by any means. Like, and I guess you could say our actions define us, but I don't even think that's true. Like, we're all just people experiencing, doing the best that we can. And like, none of us can be defined as any certain way or any type of person. And like, when we recognize that, that's when we can, heal from this division that is so pervasive. Like, we have so many different identity categories that we hang on to, and like, it's a plethora, right? And none of them really are that necessary or beneficial. And we're all in the same boat. So yeah, I think there's no point in shaming yourself for the things that you think. And that can kind of just bottle you up inside and like create this part of yourself that you shove down and you say is wrong. And I think in order to feel like fully okay and like integrated with yourself, you have to be able to look at those parts. And I don't know, for me recently, I realized I had a lot of internalized homophobia. And I realized that because I realized I was into girls. And I realized that up until this point, I didn't know that about myself because I had a strong perception of myself as being straight. And I guess I did have a internalized sort of like, I mean, I grew up in the church and everything, like, and I think I did internalize the fact that I should be straight, and like, maybe being gay was like weird or wrong. And that's just not the case. And the more that I've been able to like look at those ugly, maybe not so nice parts of myself or habitual thoughts that I've held on to, like, the more I've been able to see them for what they are and integrate them. Like, be like, no, it's okay that you thought these things. You're not a bad person and you can move past it. And I've been able to accept more of myself by realizing those things. And so I think like a lot of the judgments and divisions that we hold on to is just not us not being able to accept certain parts of ourselves. And so we shove them down and then we project that judgment outward. And so yeah, it's like, as more of us become more accepting of ourselves, I think we'll have a much more accepting and like open and loving society. Because right now there's just so much division and hatred. And I think it's because we're all not accepting of ourselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, thank you so much, Jackie, for bringing this up because, sexual identity is such a mindfuck. Just thinking of like the way that we're raised, definitely raised to be a straight woman, definitely was not raised to like women in that way. Um, and it just even the concept of just being straight, like, it's just unnecessary, because you just never know who you're going to resonate with. Let's say you meet someone, they happen to be a woman, right? You take if you could take their personality, take their life experiences and shove it into a man's body, there's a good chance you would like that experience of that person, because you're not only enjoying someone's it's bits and pieces, you're enjoying the experience of someone, right? So the experience of someone, you could like regardless of what happens to be underneath their skirt. And I say skirt because men and women can all wear skirts, so you don't know. You don't know what's underneath that skirt. If you get an invitation, you appreciate it, you know. But I just think that it's not, it doesn't need to be so black and white, you know. I definitely love, I love ladies. They are gorgeous and wonderful. And I have been with a few and it was amazing. It was amazing time. But I don't identify as being, you know, bisexual or gay, you know, and it's just because I'm like, I don't want to date, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I just been there, done that. I'm all set. You know, I'm not interested in doing it again. But that's assuming that I wouldn't, I'm not considering the possibility where you meet someone that blows your expectations away, you know? So it's like, yeah, I'm straight mostly. You know, if I have to put it into a category, it's like mostly, but you never know. You know, you just never know. Um, but but I think it's so funny that we put ourselves in these boxes. And it's like, how about we just say we like what we like? And at the moment, you may like someone that happens to be a man or somebody that happens to be a woman, you know, someone but it doesn't really matter that, you know, what's between their legs unless you know, until it's that time behind, you know, closed doors. But so many times you put yourself in a box and you think you have to be one thing, and you're totally excluding the possibility that somebody could, you could meet someone and they could just, you know, really, you could really enjoy the experience of them, and it wouldn't matter what's between their legs. You know, you would just be open to them. And so I think it's funny that we have to identify as these boxes, and really we're just putting on a mask. And you're saying you're straight, you're saying you're gay, and it could be, for the most part, yeah, that is true, but you just never know. And that's what keeps coming to mind. It's like, you just never know. You know, I tend to love dating men. I thoroughly enjoy myself, but you just never know.
Yeah, no, the like this experience where I realized that I'm also into girls is like that. I never saw that coming. Wow, but like the more that I open, the more if I let go of identity as being something that's real, or like new opportunities present themselves, and like you're able to experience more of what you are, right? Because you're not trying to be anything. And yeah, and even though I realized this about myself, it's not like I'm saying, oh yeah, I'm gay now, I'm only into girls, or like I'm bisexual, I'm into both. Like the label is so fucking unnecessary. And like people want, like it just feels like there is sort of an external pressure to identify. But I want to be part of that change where it's like, no, you don't have to label, and the label doesn't mean jack shit. And like, I don't know, I know there's like discourse between like lesbians and like bisexual, like gay people and bisexuals, like they, like gay people think bisexual people are just kind of confused, or that they have internalized homophobia, so they can't say they're fully gay, like they want to still be able to marry a man, like all of this stuff. Like how about we all just recognize, okay, like we don't fit into the societal blueprint of like what we should be, like, and that's okay, we can be whatever the fuck we want. And that sort of comes in with the trans debate as well, right? Like of being like, yeah, you're right, like we aren't, like maybe our gender doesn't have to, our gender at birth or whatever, our sex at birth does not determine how we need to express our gender, right? Like that's completely true, but it's not that you have to identify as the opposite gender. And I think that's where the conflict comes in. Like obviously we all want to be free and express ourselves and our sexuality and our gender and all of that however we want. And I love the sentiment of pride and like being proud of whoever you are and unapologetic, right? But I think we've conflated pride in just like yourself, the reality of what you are, with pride in a label. And the label is not what fucking matters. It's you. Like you can accept yourself and be whoever you want to be. And it's not dependent on like jumping from one label to another. Like, stop making it more complicated. You can just be yourself. And I'm really in loving just like seeing how I express myself when I'm not trying to express myself in a certain way. And the person I am right now, like, I'm almost unrecognizable to myself. Like, when I think about the person that I used to think I was, I'm not her anymore at all. And I love that because I've never been that, right? I've always just been Jackie. And so sort of like with this realization of my sexuality as well, it's like um I'm like, okay, well, what else is in there that I haven't been able to look at? And it's also like I thought I would have this big emotional reaction or like feel very different, but no, it's like I still feel exactly like myself. And of course, because I've always been myself, and it's not like breaking out of a label changed anything in reality. So I don't know. That's sort of my thoughts with all of this. Like, I just don't think the labels are necessary at all. And there's so much, I think change can happen faster and more easily, like when you're just letting it happen without trying to figure out what's going on.
Oh my goodness, Jackie, I love this. And you were like, we love the pride, and I agree with you. I love the pride movement, the expression, the parades. I love that. But there's a strong consideration in my mind now. Is it pride in a way of expression without pride in the label? Or is it mainly pride in being able to pick the label you want? Because being feminine doesn't change your gender, your sex from male to female, you know? Um, getting a penile implant, if you're a female body trying, transitioning to appear as a male body, doesn't change your sex, right? So you're only going through that surgery to feel better. And that's rough, like and I say that as someone that spent so many of my years changing my appearance, changing my behaviors to feel better about the box I put myself in. So I'm certainly not speaking from a place of of authority, definitely not. I was just thinking about being feminine, and how being feminine didn't make me more of the concept of being a woman. Didn't make me more of that. It just made me feel better about looking like the concept that society gave me. So, I love that you brought that up. Do we, is it pride that we're feeling in the way that we're expressing ourselves, or is it just, or is a good chunk of it, maybe not all of it, but is a good chunk of it just pride in the label because you got to pick it, and because you think that means something about you? Because at the core of it, we are people expressing ourselves, and it doesn't matter what's between your legs, how you want to dress. You can choose any way to dress. You don't need to be a woman to wear a skirt, in the same way that you don't need to be a man to wear a suit. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to be a gender to wear certain. So you can wear anything you want. It doesn't matter if it's feminine or masculine, or makes you look like a man or makes you look like a woman. Like, it doesn't matter. You're still a person. And this is how you want to express your personhood, you know? And with the trans and with the gay community, and who you take to bed, adults are able to sleep with any other consenting adult. And it doesn't matter what the bits and pieces are, other than when you're trying to work out the logistics. That's it. You're like, wait a second, that goes there. So that's it. That's really when bits and pieces are, it really makes sense to be like, okay, we're gonna think about this. Where do these bits and pieces go for maximum pleasure? Like, that's it. Other than that, it really doesn't matter what's between your legs. You can wear whatever you want. You can be an adult having sex with any other consenting adult. Doesn't matter what bits and pieces, what combination, as long as everyone's having fun and you're paying attention and you're not using each other as distractions, right? Because it doesn't really matter what label you pick. We all use each other as distractions in so many ways. and we're all just trying to feel better. So it's like, are you doing this because you enjoy doing this, or are you doing this because it makes you feel better about what you think you are?
Yep. It can all just be fluid. It can all just be, like I just think about it like this, like reality today, right now, is new, right? And we're all of our concepts are based on the past, right? And so like the more that we're trying to hang on to them and like be a woman in the way that women have always been, the more we're living in the past. Like we're not letting ourselves evolve. We're holding ourselves back. We are getting in our own way individually and collectively. That's what it is. The concepts get in the way. They don't actually help anything besides make you feel a little bit more comfortable and gives you a basis to compare yourself and feel better about yourself. Because you're going to think whatever your label is better than, like, because even gay people sometimes hate straight people. And it's like, none of that needs to be the case. Like, everyone should just be allowed to like what they like and do what they want freely without really worrying about how that makes them look to other people. All of us push against that. All of us just want to be able to be exactly who we are because that's the easiest thing for us to be. And like all of us collectively are suffering through this psychosis of like thinking that there's something fundamentally wrong with us or that we need to be different. And when we realize that all of us are thinking that, it's like, well, why the fuck are we doing this to ourselves? And it's just because we're in pain. It's just because we're insecure and we think that we are what we think we are. It's like once you realize there's a difference between what you think you are and what you actually are, and what you think is going on in the world or who you think other people are versus what is actually there, like the judgment is pointless. It's baseless. And everything is perfectly acceptable and fine exactly as it is, including yourself. And you can live with that in mind. And sure, like the habitual thoughts might come back, but again, like as long as you see your mind for what it is, as just commentary, you can see through it. And then you can live more authentically and more empathetically. Because even though you might perceive division, you know that it's not true. So, yeah, and I don't know, like pride, it's not just for the gay community, right? It can be for anyone at any time. Like we're allowed to be proud and unapologetic of whoever the fuck we are. And like I don't say this as anybody who has it figured out. Like I can't say that I fully embrace every part of myself yet. I'm working on it. And maybe I do have moments where I feel very at peace and accepting of myself, but all of that shit is still there and it comes up. And it's not about like getting rid of that either, because I think however I'm working through it is how I should be working through it. Like that's another conceptual box I'm trying to force myself in, right? Of like thinking that I should be over shit by now just because I recognize it. Like, nah, I don't have that control, but I do have influence over the way that I behave and whether I actually give weight to my thoughts and let them influence my decisions. Right? Like I can sort of see the lens for what it is. And I can't escape it ever. Like my subjectivity will always be there, but um like I can see through it and I'm bigger than it and I don't have to let it run my life anymore. And I think if we all can see that collectively, like we just recognize the illusion, the collective psychosis that's going on, like I think change is a lot more possible than we think it is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely change. Well, change, that's the good thing about it is that it's always happening, right? Whether I like what reality is reflecting back to me or not, change is always happening. Moments that I wish could last forever end. Moments that are miserable, that I would not, draft, like things, but they change. Like change is constant. It's always happening. It's just that we think we can't change because we think that we're one thing. And I say that both collectively and individually. Like we think we can't, be a responsible person because we imagine that we're not responsible and we're powerless. We see so much war and we think, humanity's never going to change because it's so selfish. And it's like, I think that's a little bit of the pot calling the kettle black, like, we talk about society being selfish and then we forget that we are also selfish. I am also selfish, like right now, so I think that is so funny. But I am an expression of change, right? So even when I have my selfish moments, they end, they change into something else. And then we have moments that look and feel sometimes selfless. Those moments change, it's an ebb and flow. And so it's like we worry about not being able to change. And really at best, we delay change. We delay the change we think is not happening. It's always happening. But we very strongly make an identity. Oh, I am, a certain sexual identity. It's like, look, I like what I like, and I love people, and they frustrate the hell out of me sometimes too. I still love them. They piss me off and I still love them. Like it's still both of those things. Those things that don't seem to, that in my mind, frustration and love can't sit in the same place, but they do. It's the same place because it's existence. It's the spectrum. I can be both excited and nervous. I can be both, excited and terrified, so it's like there is space for everything. And so I don't ever have to change, like right now, because usually the change that I think of is like long-term concrete. Like I'll want to be like with the fitness, I want to be more fit. And so I think that I need to be a person who lives a fit lifestyle versus someone who just happens to get fit because I'm busy enjoying life. I'm going on walks, we're going on hikes, we're visiting friends, we're going on adventures, we're living life. And by living life, we just happen to stay, in pretty good shape, and so then I don't have to become this person that's always going to the gym, that's always making time, that's always doing, it's like, no, that's thinking that I have to live life through the lens of fitness. And it's, instead of thinking that I have to live life through the lens of fitness, it's just paying attention to what my body is signaling at the time. Sometimes it's like, you know what, I'm feeling so pumped. Let's go pump some iron, and you listen and you are doing that. But then do you have to all of a sudden become a power lifter? No. I feel like dancing. That's it. We're joining it. Signing me up for a dance competition. Olay. Like it doesn't, like it doesn't have to be a whole identity when I decide to change into something that looks a little different than my normal go-to. you know um I always wanted to take a hip hop dancing class, right? When I learned that, that doesn't mean that because I've changed a little bit, because now I know a couple of moves. Now I'm a beat girl. I'm gonna go out there, put the cardboard on the floor. We're gonna be spinning in windmills all day. Because now that I've changed, I have now learned how to break dance. Now that means I am a break dancer. Drop the beat, DJ. It's on. We're about to serve someone. Like, so often we make an identity because of the things that we're interested in. It's like, you are going to be interested in a million and one things. You will start and stop a billion times. You don't ever have to stay in one space, because we're not black and white, and reality is not black and white. It is infinite shades of gray. Dance among the grayness, and just play where you can, right? Because you can't always play where you want, but you can. There's always room for play. And play has no agenda and it has no goals. When you were on the playground as a kid, did you ever think, all right, guys, 30 minutes on the swings and 30 minutes on the fucking tire, on the monkey bars, and then we're gonna meet by the tire wall and we're gonna have a powwow break? Like, you, right, you never remembered having like an agenda when we were in imagination land. You were just there and adapting, and if you walked in on a game of lava on the floor, you'd be like, oh my god, thanks guys, I could have lost a leg. Like, you don't immediately be like, guys, I had no idea. What? I didn't wear my lava shoes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you were just walking on the play, all of a sudden you're in a game and you're like, oh my god, how far is the lava go? Does it reach the back trees? And immediately you just adapted. You're in the game and you're like, oh shit, oh shit. Thanks guys for the warning. I could have, like I said, you could have lost the leg, but you never gave up. You never gave a fuck if you had a warning or, you just, when we were younger, it was so easy for us to just like adapt and just be somewhere and to make the most of it. And we definitely didn't know everything and we definitely didn't have control. And you felt like you didn't have control as a kid, but yet somehow that never mattered. Right? I don't know. I don't, maybe.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love that you brought that up, like how play and reality just can be fluid and we can roll with whatever is presenting itself. In the same way, like when you were a kid, if your parents were like, all right, yeah, we're gonna go run errands, like you were dragged along and you would still find a way to make that fun. Because I guess you maybe weren't holding on to so many ideas about what should be happening because you knew you weren't in control. Like you, and maybe as adults, we have maybe a stronger illusion of control because we pay the bills, like we live alone, we decide how we want to spend our time. But yeah, like it's so unnatural to like schedule out like hour by hour and stick to it and think, yeah, reality is supposed to follow my calendar. Like my calendar is how my week is going to go. And I know that's the right thing because based on my past perceptions, but another important thing to remind yourself is that your perception of how you're doing or what's going on in your life is just your perception. You can't see all of it. So like you can't fully understand how you're changing or growing. And so it's kind of pointless to work from the outside in rather than just paying attention to how you're expressing yourself and sort of like channeling that rather than trying to force yourself to be one way. Um so yeah, I love like watching that unfold and kind of sitting in that place of like, yeah, I don't really know what the fuck is going on and everything is a lot more lighthearted. And yeah, I when you brought up the fact that nobody in life, sort of does reality better than anybody else or like is more effective at dealing with reality, sort of made me realize like when I compare myself to other people and compare my life and get down on myself, it's because I think they're somehow they have something I don't. Like they're experiencing something better. Their life is less difficult. Like I don't know, like they're gonna be remembered more than me or something. Like I think there's better existences to be had than my own, but that's just bullshit. Like that's just me so desperately trying to cling on to the belief that there's somewhere to arrive to. Like there's a point to all this. Like there's an ending point to reach where it's like I've achieved the best life that I possibly could. But that doesn't exist. And that's just an idea in my mind that creates so much pressure over every little decision that I make because it's like, am I getting closer to that point or further away? And I judge myself based on where I think I am in that journey. But my perception of that, like that idea is bullshit. And my perception of how close I am to that idea is bullshit. So it's just bullshit squared. Like, I really do not need to be paying attention and taking that shit seriously. And yet I still do sometimes. Um, but I guess uh acknowledging that and seeing that is the first step to letting it go, or like really the only step to letting it go. And yeah, it's like I really feel like I want to spend more time appreciating my existence for what it is. And like I was talking to one of my friends yesterday and she was saying like I just feel like there's so much beauty in everything. Like it's not just the spectacular moments, right? It's not just, you know, when you achieve the thing that you've been wanting to achieve, it's not, your wedding day or like any of those big moments. Like it's every single moment has the same weight. And I loved how she put that. I was like, exactly. Like everything is something to appreciate. And it's only when you are creating certain standards or ideas about experiences that are good experiences to have versus like less desirable experiences that you sort of take you take your experiences for granted when every single one has something to be appreciated. Even just like sitting at my desk right now, like the vibrancy of everything that I'm perceiving, like looking at this glass of water, I'm like, damn, that shit is beautiful as fuck. There's so much detail, there's so much depth. Like it's crazy. So much complexity to be observed. And I am such a complex being to observe and such a beautiful thing to experience. And so it's not it's not like all that comparison, all of the judgment, all of the control is missing the point when the point is really just experience. It's being. And that is the most satisfying feeling of all. Like being able to sink into any situation and be like, wow, just in awe of it, right? And like so involved with it. That's how you get the most out of your life, not by becoming what you think you should be. Um, yeah, but Amanda, I think this might be a good place to wrap up the episode. I really have to go pee, so maybe we should call it here. What do we think?
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Listen to the body, a lesson we all can learn, and a lesson that we all learn repeatedly. But yeah, no, I really resonate with what you're saying. You know, we think that everyone does better because I can't do more. You know, I can't do enough, and I can't do enough when I'll never be enough, right? And so that's why everyone else can do so much better, because I think of them as so much more, and I think of myself as so much less. But there is so much to us, and the more you see that, you know, you are your whole life, right? You are life. You are. There's so much to you, more than just what you think, more than what you see. But you can see so much more, and the more you see yourself and everything around you, the less that everything else feels like too much. So thank you so much, everybody, for going on this roller coaster of a ride with us. Excited to hear your thoughts. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Dope. All right, now we do the intro.
But go use the bathroom.
Okay, yeah, let me pee real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.